HS2's new British-built bullet-style trains will travel at up to 225 miles per hour.
It was sold on its speed, but HS2 is in danger of being a slow train to nowhere. Since the announcement in 2010, tunnels have been delayed and entire routes scrapped. High-speed rail was once part of a vision to connect Scotland, Northern England, London and mainland Europe. Today, only one part of HS2 is guaranteed. This was the original plan. The first phase was for a high-speed line between London Euston and Birmingham that would be half an hour quicker than the current service. Phase 2 would see high-speed lines to East Midlands Parkway and Manchester Piccadilly. This line to Leeds has now been cancelled, and so too this route via the West Coast Main Line to Scotland. Now, all that's guaranteed is Birmingham to Old Oak Common in northwest London. So this is where the multi-billion-pound train line could end, in a suburb in northwest London, with slightly awkward links into central London, yet alone the rest of the south. The reason for all of this is because of the escalating cost of the project, from what was supposed to be £32 billion to what is expected to surpass £100 billion. Now the next stop is a political dispute. A decade ago, this is what David Cameron had said about HS2.
What this is about is making sure that every part of our country benefits from economic recovery and that we create a northern powerhouse by linking together the great cities of the north of England.
But that plan has been derailed. The former Prime Minister has reportedly expressed concerns about the new plans. His former Chancellor, George Osborne, also said it would be a big blow to the levelling up agenda. And Boris Johnson went a step further. He said the plans made no sense and mutilated the line. That's two former Prime Ministers, now presenting a headache for the current one. Rishi Sunak has to face Manchester next month for what may be the penultimate conference before the election.
We get this announcement, which is it's going to stop north of Birmingham. It's not even going to London. I mean, to be honest with you, it's just a feeling of disbelief.
What impact would the scrapping of this line, especially connecting the north, have in the north?
Well, look, we would end up with the most useless and most expensive piece of high-speed line in the whole of Europe. A small section of high speed 2 going from Birmingham not even to London, costing an absolute fortune.
The government say they are committed to HS2. The question is in what form and at what price. Just how much longer can this train service be delayed?
Well, earlier I spoke to the Labour West Yorkshire Mayor Tracy Brabin and the Conservative MP Greg Smith, who's described HS2 as a financial catastrophe. I started by asking Greg Smith if he supported axing the second leg of the high-speed railway then.
This project has ballooned in cost since it was first conceived in the noughties when the Labour Party were last in government. And it's one of those projects that when we look at it in the cold light of day after the pandemic, when people now don't travel for business as much, they conduct meetings online on Zoom and Teams and all the other platforms. And then we look at the level of debt the government has got, largely again off the back of the pandemic. This is just money that we shouldn't be spending right now. And it'd be so much better to plough that money back into regional connectivity, local connectivity.
Tracy, the budget's out of control, reportedly over £100 billion, and that money could be spent in your area on local connections.
Look, HS2 would connect the great cities of Leeds, Manchester and Birmingham and boost growth across the whole country. And these three biggest cities outside of London have been working on this project, as Greg says, for over the last 10 years. And now to renege on the commitment to the northern part of HS2 would damage jobs, investment, confidence, infrastructure, and quite frankly, tear up any notion that this government is committed to levelling up. It is economic vandalism.
But the Leeds leg has already been ditched, so it was already mutilated, in Boris Johnson's words, Tracy.
This is exactly the point. And now we see the line from Birmingham to Manchester under threat. We'll know probably Monday, Tuesday for certain. But we need the infrastructure of HS2 to build Northern Powerhouse Rail. to build Manchester to Leeds with that stop, that really needed stop in Bradford.
When facts change, you have to change tack. And with the drop in passenger numbers for business purposes, we've got to take that into account.
Most European countries have high-speed rail, not the UK. It sends a terrible message to investors, doesn't it?
No, I don't think it does. If we can prove that we don't need to spend these £100+ billion sums of money on projects that aren't actually needed, but do, and I'm all in favour of delivering that east-west connectivity in the north of England. I'm in favour of getting that station into Bradford. If we can spend the money on things like that instead, I think that's what will make the difference, rather than a railway that's going to go from somewhere in West London that then takes you half an hour to get into the centre of London to a station that's not in the middle of Birmingham either. Who's going to use this thing?
The idea that we have to choose between HS2 and Northern Powerhouse Rail for connectivity and infrastructure in our region is for the birds, because in the south, no one seems to have to choose between Crossrail and HS2. And this government have been committed to HS2, and it doesn't go to the north, and it seemingly doesn't even go to London. So the failure is absolutely on the watch of this government.
But Tracy, your message about government failure is rather punctured by the fact that your party can't even commit to this. We don't know where they stand on HS2. They won't sign the cheque, will they?
Well, I disagree, because you'll have heard shadow front bench ministers at the last weekend going out and being supportive. You've heard Rachel Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer. I hosted them on a visit in Bradford. Both of them have said we are committed to HS2 in full, and also Northern Powerhouse Rail, because they understand that to get growth across the whole country, you have to build, build, build. We've seen it in America. You have to build infrastructure in order to get growth across the country.
Greg, you're a Southern MP. I mean, what makes you feel you can tell Northerners like Tracy, you know, what they need for their area?
I'm not in any way, shape or form trying to tell any colleague from the north, be they from my own party or another, what they need. I was talking from the experience of when I was a member of the Transport Select Committee of the House of Commons, visited Leeds and Bradford and heard directly from local politicians there of all parties what they wanted to see. And that's why I'm supporting the need for that station in Bradford. But what I can say as a Southern MP is that I live with 19 miles of HS2 coming through my constituency. The real, and I don't use this term lightly, human misery that the construction of this project brings.
You're a NIMBY, in other words.
No, I'm not an NIMBY at all, because I've supported many projects. I'm supporting the projects that actually were talked about earlier in the north. But you've got to have a look through the lens of what value does a project bring. And I'm not sure HS2 brings any value.
Tracy Braben, Greg Smith, thanks very much.